season. So I'm gonna show you how to use them in a savory, cheesy dish, perfect for entertaining. This is my tomato cheddar pie. Yeah. So first off, we gotta start with the pastry. And I know a lot of people are really nervous about pastry, but it's actually not that hard to make. And I'm gonna use a food processor because it makes it even easier. If you wanted to do this by hand, feel free, just takes more time. And I don't have a lot of time. We gotta get this done. All right, so into my food processor, I'm gonna add in 1 cup of all-purpose flour. All-purpose is great because it's really nice and tender. There's not too much gluten in it, like it's not as proteiny as bread flour, so it gives you a nice, tender, delicious crust. But I'm also gonna add in a cup of whole wheat flour, and that's gonna give me like a little bit of nuttiness. Is this necessary? No. You could use all-purpose flour here as well, but this gives like a nice little bit of delish, and also whole wheat flour makes you feel like you're eating something, you know, kind of healthy, which is good. Now, I'm gonna season that up with about a teaspoon of salt. Classic ingredient in pastry, even if you're doing like a sweet pie, that's something you need. But since this is like a savory pie, I'm adding in a little bit of black pepper. Now, if you wanted to here, you could add in dry Italian seasoning, a little bit of garlic powder for a little bit of garlicky kick, that would be delicious. But just pepper today, because we're feeling like pretty clean. So I'm just gonna pulse that a few times just to combine all those dry ingredients. And this is the trick to pastry. Anytime you are making pastry, you want your butter or your fat to be super cold. So I've got mine in the fridge, and I've got it cubed up already because that's gonna save me time mixing it into that flour. So I'm just gonna grab that butter, a little bit of milk too, and I wanna add that butter on into the food processor. I've cubed it up. Again, 1 cup of butter, unsalted. If you used salted, not the end of the world, it'll just be a little extra salty, which I love salt, so I would love that. And I just wanna pulse that a few times just to break that butter up into about the size of like a green pea. That's pretty much it, just like 5 or 6 pulses. Now, this is a tomato cheddar pie, and I'm gonna add cheddar to every layer. So I need 1/2 cup, right, of cheddar cheese in this pastry, because why not? That's gonna kind of melt in that dough, give you like little crispies. Absolutely delish. Give that a little bit of a pulse. And then for the liquid in this pastry, I'm gonna do milk and an egg. Typically when you're making pastry, you need 2 cups of flour, a cup of fat, and then you need about 1/2 cup of something liquidy. So I'm gonna do a 1/4 cup of milk, which again is nice and cold from the fridge. And then I'm also gonna add in an egg. And what the egg does is it makes this pastry super easy to work with. It's not gonna like crack and fall apart. It's gonna be easy to mix together, which is gonna be beautiful. Give that a whisk up. Whiskey, whiskey. You know, perfect. Now I'm just gonna dump that on into my food processor and pulse that a few times just to bring that pastry together. As soon as that starts climbing the sides, even though it still kind of looks like the dog's breakfast, that is what you're looking for. Basically, you want to be able to pick up the stuff in this food processor, squeeze it into a ball, and have it hold. That is perfect looking pastry. I'd wrap that in a piece of plastic, pop it in the fridge for about an hour just to re-chill that fat and hydrate that flour, and then that's gonna be good to go. Well, that's doing its thing. I gotta make a really quick kind of filling. So I've got a cup of cream cheese here that's at room temperature, and I wanna add in a few tablespoons of some chives. I'm reusing things that Andrea Bucket used earlier, because that's what I like to do. But if you want, you could use basil here, you could use thyme or rosemary, that would be absolutely delicious. You just want about like 2 tablespoons-ish. Toss that on in. And then to bring, again, like Andrea Bucket was saying, some pops of flavor, I wanna add in 2 tablespoons of grainy Dijon mustard. If you wanted to use smooth, yeah, I think mustard deserves a round of applause. I love mustard. It is my absolute fave. Toss that in. This is one of my favorite shortcuts for flavor too, a little bit of store-bought pesto. There's already so much going on in there, and a robot did it for me. I didn't have to do anything. Now, just a little bit of garlic, and I like to use a rasp or a microplane for that. Mince that on in. And that is looking so good. We got extra garlic, because obviously that pesto has garlic in it already. And then I just wanna add a little bit more cheese. So 1/2 cup of that cheddar. So we got cream cheese, all of it. Don't worry, the rest of that cheese is going in somewhere else. Now I'm just gonna give this a mix up, season it with some salt and pepper, and when we come back, I'm gonna make this pie. Today, we are celebrating tomato season with my tomato cheddar pie. We've already made our cheesy filling and our pastry has chilled and it's looking perfect. So now it's time to put it all together. What do you say? Yeah. All right, so I've got this pastry little wheel here and it looks so good. Basically, when you put it in the fridge, that butter's gonna firm up. That cheese is also gonna get a little more solid, which is great, because you want things cold when it hits the heat of the oven, because that leads to like a delicious flaky pastry, which is always what you want. So I'm just gonna dust my work surface with a little bit of all-purpose flour, because I went to so much trouble making this pastry. I don't want it to stick to the counter. I wanna be able to eat it, every little last bit of it. So just dust that flour all on. And then my favorite way to start rolling out pastry and get a little bit of emotion out, basically what that's doing is it's just squatting that pastry out a little bit. That gets it just going, you know. So now I just gotta roll this baby out into about a half a centimeter thick. And as you see, every time I'm rolling this, every few times, I give this pastry about a quarter turn, because that's gonna make sure it's not sticking onto my board. And if it does start sticking, add a little more flour, but it's also gonna keep it nice and round. Oh, he's a tough one. This is when I usually call Aaron in and I'm like, can you come and do me a fave? This is looking absolutely beautiful though. And the thing with the galette, unlike classic pie in a pie plate, you don't necessarily need it to be a perfect circle. If it's a little squirkly, that's gonna be totally fine. All right, that is looking wonderful. So now I gotta fill that with the filling. But as you see, we are making a galette, as I said. We are not doing a traditional pie. So I'm just gonna transfer this pastry onto a parchment-lined piece of baking equipment. It's called a pan. Pop that on over. And now I wanna top that with that amazing cheesy filling I made earlier. All that cream cheese, that little pops of mustard in there, the herbs, absolutely out of control. Just kinda thwap it in the middle and spread it out, but leave a little bit of a border all the way around, because that's gonna fold up and become the crust of this galette. So just spread that on out. I would probably also eat this on a tortilla rolled up. Delicious filling, what a great party appetizer. Now, for the tomatoes, I've got some heirlooms here. They're absolutely beautiful this time of year, and I feel like tomatoes were a little bit late this year. So if you've got a vine just bursting at the seams, this tomato tart is the thing you wanna make. So I'm gonna thinly slice those up, which look absolutely out of control. Oh my gosh. Remember the time you could only find red tomatoes? Or worse than that, you could only find those sad kind of pink tomatoes that looked like a tomato, but it was lying to you because it did not taste like a tomato? Heirlooms will never do that to you. So now I just wanna pop this on top of that cheesy filling. So just lay these tomatoes out however you want to make them look really, really pretty. Fan it out, pop in some color. Already this looks way too beautiful to eat. Amazing. Now, I just wanna fold up the sides. The way you make a galette is you just grab the edges and fold them up to kind of hold in all of that amazing filling. And literally, you can be this aggressive. You just kind of mash it all together until it comes into like a beautiful little kind of hexagon. Pop a little bit of egg wash around the outside just for a little bit of golden brown, which is beautiful. And then, I promised you a tomato cheddar pie, and right now this is only looking like a tomato pie. So I am gonna add the rest of that grated cheddar cheese on top. Maybe a little bit of salt around the edge. And then that goes into my 475-degree oven on the bottom rack for a crispy crust for about 35 to 40 minutes. Whoops, a little bit of flour got in there. And then you end up with this little number, which looks out of control. Like, look at how crispy crunchy. One of my very favorite ways to show off how much I love a galette is to show you how easy it is to serve. You just do a little bit of that. And that's it. Pop a little bit of basil on top of there. if you've got some. And then my very favorite thing about a galette is the fact that you just slice on through that crispy, beautiful crust. Oh, it smells so buttery. Oh my gosh, I'm very excited. Lift that on up. And you, my friends, have hand pie. Yes. I'm hot and that is delicious. The cheesiness in there, kind of out of control. Kind of outshines the tomatoes, but I'm not mad at it. I do love cheese, including this next joke. I really hope this pie becomes one of your heirloom recipes. A little bit of tomato humor there for you. Hey, Mary here. What did you think? Drop your comments below and don't forget to like and subscribe for more of the good stuff.